Hello lovely Flosstube friends, welcome back to the channel. For those of you that are returning following the first video with the stitching in, obviously you like to know more about what's going on in life. So here we are with a life update, build update, garden update. If you're here for stitching, I'm sorry there's no stitching on this video. This is just all about the stuff that's been going on. So, update people, what to tell you. So there have been various occasions where I've said in the past that it was looking likely that I'd be going in for a hip surgery. I'm going in tomorrow morning at 7:30 for a hip surgery, but it's sort of, I'm unsure what I'm actually having done as yet. So they're going to go in, they're going to do a hip arthroscopy to have a little look around and see whether there's a tear that needs to be repaired and to see if it needs a bit of a clean up and a tidy up from the last surgery, which I had 6 years ago. As long as the damage isn't any worse than it was 6 years ago, so i.e. the cartilage was missing on a patch inside my hip, as long as that isn't any worse, if it's a case that it's just degraded again, then they have said that they might have another go at micro-fracturing it, which basically will mean that I will be non-weight bearing for 6 weeks, and the recovery period to get walking again will be 12 weeks. So it's a long recovery. But the idea is it sort of bides me some time before I would need a hip replacement. However, what he has said is if he goes into the hip and that patch is any bigger than it was last time, then they can't microfracture it because it's beyond its limit. In which case, I think the idea is then that they just close me back up, wake me up, and then tell me they need to book me back in for a hip replacement. So fingers crossed it hasn't got any worse than it was and that it's just wearing out the same areas, in which case there's a possibility that there might be another temporary measure fix. As he said to me, the last surgery that I had basically gave me an extra 5/6 years. So for the last year it's been giving me some hassle. So I would say really it gave me 5 years respite before it started to play up again. What he has said is if I have the hip surgery and I have it micro-fractured again, the likelihoods of it lasting the same length of time are very slim. So basically, I think you get the best result the first time round, and I think it's a little less effective the second time round. But it still would bide me some time. Basically, what we're trying to do is get me to 50 before I have to have the hip replacement. So if it's an option, I think they're going to try that. If it's not an option, then they won't really do anything, and it will be a case of rebook me back in for a hip replacement. So that is what I'm heading into tomorrow. So regardless of whether, you know, what procedure they do, just by having a hip arthroscopy, there will be an element of convalescing and recovery that I'll need to do, which will give me the opportunity to sit and get some stitching done. So that will be quite nice. And this will be the first time that I've ever had a surgery take place when we're supposed to be in summer. Supposed to be being the loose word, because we haven't really seen it yet. I mean, the temperatures are up there. We're up at like 19 and 20 degrees, but we had like a couple of really good days, and then we've had a couple of intermittent days, and since then it's not really been much of anything. So I wouldn't say we're in height summer here yet, because we're not quite there, which is worrying because we'd normally got there by now. So in years gone by, when it's been a bit like this with the weather, we don't really get a summer. It's a bit hit and miss. So I do hope that that's not the case this year, because I'm rather hoping that I'm going to be convalescing and the sun's going to come out and I get to sort of convalesce in the garden in the sun is my plan. But hey, best laid plans and all that. So yeah, so therefore I've got a few stitchy projects that I've now got ready and, you know, almost ready, so that I've got some different stuff that I can do, which won't require me to go and sit in front of my big stand. I will have stuff that I can do from the bedroom or on a chair. So fingers crossed for that. I'm sure it'll all go swimmingly. What else to tell you? Because of the hip surgery, there has been a mad dash. So I on purposely booked the hip surgery for when I thought that the build would be, you know, the outside would be watertight. That was the plan. But also, because I was so busy doing the build with hubby upstairs, I was a bit late with the garden. So the dahlias sort of ended up getting left in pots in the greenhouse and in the cold frame. And unfortunately, somehow some slugs and snails managed to get into the cold frame and into the greenhouse and nibbled their way through my babies. So there was a few that I had to sort of, you know, put into like self-isolation, if you like, to try and bring them back on again. And obviously try and find where all the slugs and snails were getting in. So some of them got a little bit eaten and some didn't. So there has been a mad dash in the garden this last week or so, cutting down the foxgloves, and I'll put some pictures in here of sort of what the spring type garden looked like so that you can get a feel for that. And then obviously we've now just gone over so that all the alliums have gone, and at the same time the alliums went was when I put the dahlias in. So I mean, even up until yesterday I was still running around because I had all these dahlias and no space for them, but I didn't want to leave them in their pots. So yeah, so I've just sort of plonked them where I've thought. But then with the fact that there was some that were already in the ground that I managed to get him sort of in amongst doing the build, because I wasn't sort of on top of my game in the garden, where it's been quite wet and a bit rainy here, I've ended up with half of my dahlias being eaten alive. And I have done video footage this morning, just ever so quickly, just so that I could show you where the garden is at now, where I've got all of the dahlias that I could into the ground. And they've been a bit nobbled, some of them, because obviously you just can't, couldn't keep on top of them and be doing the build and working and doing everything else. So what I did manage to do yesterday and the day before was I've got some special mineralized straw that turned up, which is a slug and snail deterrent. So far it looks good. It looks like it's working, because for the last 2 days nothing's been absolutely annihilated, and anything that looks like it's annihilated was annihilated before I got that down. So fingers crossed, it is a bit of a deterrent. We do have a problem, well, I have a problem here with slugs specifically. I mean, they just love the dahlias, and I think because they know that I put dahlias out every year, it's as if they come back in the masses. I'm forever out there at 5 o'clock in the morning by torchlight, or it's actually quite bright now at 5 o'clock in the morning, with tissue paper and rubber gloves, picking up slugs off of my dahlias and off of the grass and disposing of them. So yes, I am having the never-ending story of the slug versus Teresa is where we're at. So, but like I say, dahlia is a little bit behind. They're not very big. Obviously, normally I would be all over them and watching them like a hawk to make sure that the slugs and snails didn't annihilate them while they were on the little side, but I haven't managed to do that this year. So those that have managed to get off to a start seem to be surviving, let's say. So I will input some video footage here so you can see what I'm talking about. So we've got the tomato plants, and there's a few dahlias in there, and my pepper plants are in there. My begonias are in there, and there's a couple of dahlias in there. So it's a bit of a weird day today. So we've got clouds and sun. So there's the Floribunda rose, which is going a little crazy at the moment. And we're down Mum's End at the minute. So down at the rockery area. And my little hydrangea, it's down here with some hanging baskets. And there's me. This is the wheelbarrow. It was an old wheelbarrow of my granddad's, and it was no good to be a wheelbarrow, so we thought, well, what can we do with it? So I done nothing more than plant it up with begonias. There's some creeping jenny in there. I think it's called nasturtiums. And then this is the little fire pit thing of my mum's, which fell apart, so I turned that into a planter as well. So my penstemons are in there. But yeah, so the garden is getting there. Although the weather has not been as conducive as we would like. So here we have the aces outside Mummy's and the rockery area with a little bit of underplanting going on. Another lovely rose. It's a nice standard. We do like a good standard rose. And over there we've got the big cherry tree. I say big cherry tree, it's a baby still. And then in the middle we've got the weeping cherry tree. So as you can see, everything is still very green. So with all the building work, there was a delay on getting the dahlias in the ground. And to be honest, the slugs and snails were beating me, let's say. So even though I had them in the cold frame and in the greenhouse, so here they are. There's some still left in the cold frame because I've got nowhere else to put them. Now somehow the slugs managed, and the snails specifically, managed to get in there and nobble my plants. I think I might have salvaged most of them now. But you can see this one's been a little bit nobbled. So yeah, so we was having a bit of a fight there. So therefore, the ones that I managed to get out in the garden had already either been nobbled or been nobbled since they got in the garden, because it was all a bit of a rush job to get them in with the building going on. So my French lavender. If smells could come down a camera, this would be immense. This is my jasmine. And man, it smells gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. And the pergola, on top of the pergola, we've got the climbing roses and rambling roses. So this is going through the pergola. And then down here is some of the dahlias, which are still putting up a bit of a fight against the slugs. And depending on where you live in the world, obviously this is my Buddleii, well not obviously, it is a Buddleii. But for those in different countries, this is either a clematis or a clematis, which is just starting to go over now. So there's a little bit of black flower on there. But yeah, it's just starting to lose its flowers now. But the beauty of this one is it flowers again later in the year. The salvia. Here's my little Buddleii. So with the fight that I was having with the dahlias, I'd got them in the ground. So I've put these special plastic collars around them. So if I get in closer, you'll be able to see these little green collar things. And the idea is that the slugs find it a little bit more difficult to get under and get underneath that lip. So that tends to keep them a little bit more shielded and I mean, they still get in there. Look, you can see some down there. There's a little bit of damage down there from some of the leaves that have been nobbled. But it is keeping them a bit more at bay. There's my penstemon. But so far, we haven't really, the dahlias haven't quite made it off the ground yet. Not as I would have expected by this time of year. But to be honest, our weather hasn't been as conducive as it normally is. But there's a little dahlia there. Look, bumblebee's having a little snack on my dahlia. And so the peonies have already gone over, unfortunately. I didn't get a picture of those. It's my canna in the background there. Little Hebe. There's another canna over there in the corner. A bit more peony, but of course the peonies have already gone over. There's my lilies. ready to pop. But yeah, it's all very green still and not in flower. It's sort of, I'm in that midst of transition. So we're not quite into summer flowering yet because the weather's not worked in our favour. But we're way past the spring flowering. So up at the top there, see if I can get, I don't know if you can see the roses. There's some roses still up on the top of the pergola. There we go. So up along the top, you've got a rambling rose on each side and climbers in the middle, which they looked magnificent. I'll see if I've got some pictures. If I've got some pictures, then I'll put those in. And then over here in the top planter, we have the my lilies, stargazers. They're out. And then we've got some penstemons, some dahlias they're ready, they're just not quite there yet. More dahlias. These ones are out. Some have survived. But most of them are still really quite small. These are both dahlias as well. So yeah, my lupins have already gone over, as have my foxgloves. The agapanthus, these are little like white agapanthus. They're ready to pop. I had to change all this part, so there was a big bush at this point, but it grew too big, so I pulled it out. Only to find that I've got burrowing bees, would you believe, in the corner of this planter. So unfortunately, Mum got stung. Mum got stung by the bees because she stuck her hand in there, but we managed to get that little plant in there and just leave them alone. So there's a little hole down there. Can you see it next to where the light is? That's their little entrance and exit. So we're just going to leave them to do their thing. And then we've got another lilies there. The agapanthus up on the deck. One there, that's ready to pop, as is that one over there. Ignore the ladders, that's our entrance to upstairs at the moment. Up on the deck we've got the hydrangea. It's just starting to do its thing now. Got the begonias, and then I've got my other hydrangea here, which is just coming along nicely. So yeah, the garden's not as flowery as I would like, and it's certainly not as full as I would like, but you know, British weather is something to be desired, that's for sure. And that's Mummy's house. And the hanging baskets. I just went with geraniums in the hanging baskets because I know I'm not going to have time to do as much as I would like this year, and with the hip I don't know how much I'm going to do. So delphiniums just look like they're about to go over. There's a few that have already gone over, and then we've got, what have we got down here? Some more dahlias. See what I mean? They're there, but they're ready, but they're still really small dahlias. Foxgloves are just going over again. More dahlias. There's a lovely little rhubarb and custard there. So yeah, so I reckon the next few weeks the dahlias will sort of start coming alive and do their own thing. That's the plan anyway. There's my new cherry tree. And then there's the rockery, which is just coming along nicely now. So fingers crossed we start to get some sunshine and a little less rain. So, and then down the sideway again, there's not as much action as I would like because the spring stuff's gone and the summer stuff's not quite there yet. So this is, there's my grasses. Again, there's more agapanthus that's just starting to flower now. Just starting to do their thing. Look at the state of my hostas. Look what I'm up against. That's what the slugs and snails have done. My fern. This is the part of the house that still needs to be rendered, she says, if it will stay in its place. So as you can see at the top's rendered. It's painted. This is the other bit that still needs to happen. And then down here, this is the tops of my trug. So in the trug we have got we have some beetroot and we have some carrots, but then because I've run out of time yesterday and yeah, there's nowhere else to put any more dahlias. I've got more dahlias than I've got space, and knowing that I was about to go in for surgery tomorrow, it was like, well, I need to do something with them. And seeing as I'm going to be on crutches, I was like, well, why don't I use the other side of my trug and plant my dahlias in there, because I could probably still look after them and just hope that the slugs and snails don't find them. But it looks like they already have, look, nobbled already. But it is what it is, people. And then down here, obviously the azalea's gone over. Another clematis. It's got some more flowers on it. My begonias. Azalea's gone over. Well, we're not even going to talk about this. Look at that. That's my foxglove that's just sort of broken. There's a penstemon. The lupin's just going over now, so that really should be cut back down. But this is what I'm up against. Look at the state of this dahlia. It has been absolutely annihilated. Another foxglove. Looks like it's flopped in the rain. Another dahlia. Oh, honestly, I'm heartbroken. All my plants are being eaten alive, and I haven't had the chance to come out and do what I would normally do and go on slug patrol to fix the problem and come out and sort of get them each night or each morning because of the build and various other things. I mean, look, that just looks like a stalk. There's almost nothing left. This one's doing a bit better. But I have got this new stuff. So this stuff here, this I put down yesterday and the day before. So I ordered 4 big bags of this. And it's called mineralised mulch. It's a mineralised straw. But it is a slug and snail deterrent. So they don't like to go on it because it's sharp and prickly. So far, it seems to be, I wouldn't say it's stopping all of the slugs and snails, but it is definitely making a bit of a difference. So hopefully the fact that I'm going to be laid up and not being able to sort of trudge around on the floor trying to go and collect them all up and dispose of them, this might be, it might salvage some of my plants, maybe, if I'm lucky. So here's my door. That's the frame to the doors that are going to go upstairs at some point. So with everything that's been going on at home with the garden, obviously a big push to get the garden so that it's as proofed as I can get it. So if the slugs are going to annihilate anything now, then there's nothing I can do, because I'm going to be in no fit state to go out there and try and be pulling, climbing through the flower beds to get the slugs off. The hip won't allow for that. So I basically tried to make it as proof as it can be. What survives will survive, and what doesn't survive doesn't survive. Unfortunately, it's going to be one of those years. But hopefully they will all survive and they will all shoot up. And then I'll be able to do a video of the garden with, some flowers in it, because otherwise I'm just going to have like little gnarled stubs and a very bare garden this summer. But there's not much I can do about that. So for the build, yes, the build was interesting. So at last I would say we are 90% watertight. Where I've got pictures, I will insert some pictures here so you can see. So the roof is on. The renderers came and rendered the 2 front dormers and the top gable end area. But we are still, oh, and they put the scratch coat on the back dormer, but that's as far as that's got. So the renderers still need to come back and render the bottom half of the house underneath where the gable end is. And they also need to come and put the final coat onto the back dormer at the back, which you'll see in a video that's coming up. So there's that. We have had a bit of an issue and a bit of a setback with windows. So the 2 front windows are in for the 2 front dormers. They were fine. There weren't anything special. But because the back end of the house is a south-facing garden, so the sun comes up on that side and goes down that side, and it's constant sun. Because of that, it gets so hot, because there's always direct sunlight, that we've always made sure that on the back of the house we have the glazing units with the integral blinds, so that way you can shut the blinds within the glazing. So because that's what we've got on the back of the house already, downstairs, it only made sense that we had the same thing upstairs. So we went with the alley frames, alley frames with the glazing with the integral blinds, of which was a longer wait time than the front windows. So I think there was about an 8-week wait for those. So we was waiting for the windows. Obviously the renderers were booked in for the same time that the windows turn up, so that they can do the window reveal, so that they render up to the windows. So that was the plan. We had it all scheduled. Then we got a delay on the windows at the back. So he basically turned around and said, oh, just to let you know, the glazing units with the integral blinds have arrived. So I was like, yay, great. When can we have delivery? And he went, well, there's a problem. So I was like, well, what's the problem? And he went, well, somehow when we placed the order for the glazing, in actual fact, the order for the frames didn't go through to the factory. So I was like, so what are you saying? So he said, well, we've got the glazing units, but we've got no frames. He said, the frames haven't even been made. So I'm like, well, what did they think we was going to do? Did they think we was going to just float the glazing in midair? So needless to say, they then turned around and said there's an additional 4-week wait for the frames, of which then pushes us back because obviously we can't do the rendering. So we was like, well, there's not really much you can do if you haven't got the frames. But I said, if you can put a hurry on it, it would be fabulous, since as, you know, we're sort of in a sticky position because we're not watertight until we've got those windows in. The weather at that point had been quite mild, but then all of a sudden the wind and the rain started to happen. So then we was left with no choice but to put plastic up. So we basically tried to make we put plastic up and then sort of held it on with blocks of wood, you know, as like a framing around the outside of the plastic to try and hold the plastic on. If we get too much wind, we're going to have a problem. We did have a torrential downpour the other day, which really was like, we had sort of south-facing winds, so the wind was driving the rain inwards. And we did end up with a bit of a leak down here in the extension bit, which I'm really not happy about because I've now got a mark on the ceiling. But it wasn't so bad that it soaked the ceiling, so it hasn't blown the plaster or the plasterboard. So at the moment, I'm just got all my fingers crossed that that's not going to happen. So then about 2 weeks ago, we got a phone call from the window company again to say your frames are here so we can deliver the doors. They said they'd delivered them on the Tuesday. That was on the Friday. So on the Tuesday, we were sitting here waiting for the delivery. Anyway, it got to about 4 o'clock and I rang my husband. I said, it still hasn't turned up. So when my husband rang through to them and said we was expecting a delivery today. And he was like, oh yeah, I'll look into it. Anyway, then we got a phone call back just before 5 o'clock to say, we're really sorry. The frames are here, but there's a problem. So we was like, well, what's the problem? And they said, well, now that the frames are here, when we've actually picked the frames and the glazing units up to put them in the van to deliver them, they've realised that the glazing units don't fit the frames. I know. It's not even funny, is it? But it is, because it's like, really? You're a window company and you can't even work out what size windows you need for your own frames. So it's almost laughable. So I'm like, well, you know, didn't someone check this? You know, since as you've had the glazing units now for over 4 weeks, you didn't think to check? And they're like, well, you know, we have lots of glazing units all the time. We don't really check until the frames are here. So I'm like, great. So now we're on another 4-week wait. Hopefully it's only another week, another 2, possibly 3 weeks to go before the glazing units turn up. But we sort of said, well, look, you know, bring us the frames at least. I mean, initially we was thinking maybe we could put the frames in so the renderers could come in and render up to the frames. But then the problem is we've got no way then to put the plastic in. You can't keep the plastic in and put the frames in. So we now have window frames, but no glazing units. So I'm still not watertight at this point in time. And obviously the idea was that we would be watertight before I had my hip surgery, so that way I could help Darren get the windows in or whatever. And that basically, because the problem what we've got is if Darren's at work and all of a sudden we have high winds and driving rain and the plastic blows off or rips, I was still in a position that I could go up the ladder and I could try and fix the problem. You know, with all the water gushing in, it's not what you want because we would just flood downstairs. But the problem is that with me going in for my surgery tomorrow, if all of a sudden we get, you know, high winds and driving rain, then if it leaks or it rips the plastic, I can't get up there to fix anything, and it, you know, we'll just flood the bottom of the house. So, but that was originally the reason that we sort of planned it the way we did. But obviously with the hold-ups with the windows, that leaves us in the position that if that happens, Darren's going to have to come home from work and try and fix the problem. But I can't be helpful or useful in any way, shape or form. So yeah, that's the reason why we're a bit upset with the window company. I mean, it's not a very good service if you ask me. And the fact that they still expect to be paid the full amount, I was like, I don't think so. I'm expecting some sort of discount for the inconvenience of this. On top of which, my husband had booked a day off work for the delivery, which didn't happen. And we'd organised for a special lift because the glazing units and the frames are so heavy. You have to have like a hoisty lift thing that takes them up onto the flat roof to get them installed. Well, obviously we had the higher charge for that twice, and twice it hasn't happened. So yeah, so I'm expecting a discount, of which we are still working through that with them. So nevertheless, the roof is sort of watertight. Partially. I know I shouldn't laugh, but it's, you know, it's one of those things. You just have to roll with whatever you got. And I'm into that these days. We just roll with whatever comes at us. So, yeah. So there's not really much else that has been happening. I think the decision is sort of decided on the stairs. So we're going with an oak staircase. It's got some LED lights in it, and it's carpeted on the top because otherwise I could just imagine that the staircase would be really noisy without a bit of carpet on it. But you've still got some oak on the treads that will be showing, or not on the treads, on the risers. So, but you'll see that when the stairs turn up. But I'm just waiting on my sample of the oak to make sure I'm happy with that. Once I'm happy with that, they're making a bespoke staircase for us. And they reckon that they've got a turnaround time. They can get the staircase to me within 3 to 4 weeks. So in 3 to 4 weeks, we can have the staircase in. So based on that, Darren has been back up in the loft when he's not been working and he's not racing, starting on the doorways and partition walls. So just to get the structures in place around where the staircase comes up, because what we don't want to do is we don't want to punch a hole in the ceiling down here when it's all still very open up there, because all the dust and stuff is just all going to filter downstairs. So the plan, nothing like a good plan is there, the plan is that we will build the partition walls where the staircase goes up through the ceiling. We will put the partition walls in and get those plasterboarded and put a door in, so that when we punch a hole through the ceiling, when the stairs turn up, it will literally still be contained up there. So the staircase will go in, but we'll have a door with partition walls in place so that all the noise and the mess at least stays all upstairs. That's the plan. Whether that's what happens or not is a whole nother matter, but that is the plan. So the next bit of video that you will see is basically where we've got to upstairs. So here's a little look at where we're at now. So let me take you outside and show you the house. Seems as everyone wanted to see how the house looks now the scaffolding's gone. Welcome to my street. Look, the sun's come out, special. All special for you. So here is the house. So from the front it all looks done, apart from the driveway. Obviously we can't do the driveway until we've finished having all the deliveries put. As you can see, there's all the deliveries. But there's the driveway. So the front of the house is done with windows, so it looks like it's done. Right, let's go back in. So yeah, it's the garden is, yeah, I think I'm not going to have as good a view of the garden as I normally do for summer, but it will be what it will be. So I'm hopeful that it will look better once it's got a bit more colour in it. Although it's not colourless, it's just my dahlias are normally a little bit further on than they are at the moment, but I think we can suffer it given that I've been so busy upstairs and with everything else that's been going on. But now it's just a case of how do I maintain it while stuck on crutches. So yeah, I think I'm just going to have to accept it is what it is this year. But there we go. So it seems as we're out here, let me see if I can show you the upstairs. So when I was saying about there was issues with the upstairs, as in the windows, the rear windows that are still not here, and we can't render until that is done. So let me just turn you around. So that is upstairs. So that's the plastic with the holes. So we're sort of watertight, sort of. And it's got a scratch coat render on it. There's still some ladders up there because that's for when the renderers do come back. We might as well go up and have a look, mightn't we? But you see my point. It's like if we get wind and rain, which apparently we're supposed to be expecting 60-mile-an-hour winds next week and driving rain. Well, if that plastic breaks, I've got no way of getting up there to secure it, which means we could end up with a rather wet indoors downstairs and lots of damage, which is never good. But let's go up the ladders. Last time up the ladders, people. This will be interesting. See if I can do this with you. Okay, here we go. It's like the stairs to the loft. Okay. She says, hold on tight. So, we've got a precarious downpipe that's just sort of stuck down there because we can't fix it to anything because the rendering's not finished. But all the tiling's done. So tiling's done, scratch coat's done. There's my rather funny looking windows, which are not actually windows at all. It's just plastic. But you see how we've had to fix the plastic. So we have to fix the plastic using some wood, but obviously we can't put the frames in and still secure the plastic, so pointless exercise. So let's go in. This is the doorway for now. Oh, so here we are in the upstairs. So it looks a bit messy up here because Darren was up here working yesterday, making a start on the framing, ready for the staircase, because what we sort of said is we need to have the partition walls put in before we put the stairs in, so that when we punch the hole through the staircase or through the ceiling downstairs, we can easily just sort of shut a door and it's all still cornered off. There's the windows, or the window frames, let's say. So then down here, that there is where the staircase will come up, and then where this line is, that's the top step, and this is the landing. And then this up here is the doorway. Come on, camera, play. This is the doorway into the bedroom. So this is how we'll go into the bedroom. Ooh. And then here's the bedroom. With windows. We've got windows there. So here's my view out the window. And then over there is my big, that will be my double doors for my bedroom. It's all just a bit messy up here. Darren's been sawing, so there's all wood and stuff everywhere. He's not exactly the tidiest of workers, is my husband, but I won't complain because he's still doing it for me. So this is the doorway into the bedroom, and then we're going to have another doorway that comes here, which will take you through to the dressing room. There's the insulation, see we've got all the bits, we're just not at the position to put it all in. So this here is the dressing room, and then over there where the other Velux windows are, oh dear, I think there's a guy with a rather loud exhaust on his motorbike. There's the Velux windows, so that's the windows for the bathroom. So yeah, it probably doesn't look like it's changed very much, other than the fact that we have windows. But yeah, I think it's going to become a little bit clearer once I've actually got the partition walls in. So, because I still look at this space and think, wow, it's not actually as big as I thought it was going to be. But then my husband keeps telling me that it's still bigger than what we've got. So I suppose in some respects, when you look at it like that, it is fairly big. Obviously, it's absolutely nowhere near as big as you guys in the US and Canada that have got, massive great houses in comparison to our quaint little English houses. Although there are some rather big houses here in the UK. You just have to be a millionaire to own them, or at least exceptionally well off. But I'm really happy with the two front dormer roof ceilings. So what we done was, because the ceiling apex here, so that's like that's the wall there, and then that's the ceiling, and then another wall, so it's got like a bit of a cathedral type feel in that section. So we wanted to mirror image that in the dormers, like the dormer ceilings. So instead of having a flat ceiling, we've got the same up, across and down, so that we sort of mirror the same sort of cathedral-y type shape in the dormer ceilings, as well as in the ceiling of the room, just to sort of have some uniform going on. And then up here is a skylight. Let's see if I can get the skylight for you. Hold on, people. So up here is the skylight above the stairs. So that should throw a load of light down the staircase, is the plan. Which is here. Although it's not there, look, because it's just ceiling still. But not for much longer. So the staircase, we've decided on the staircase. I just need the sample of the oak, and then I think it'll be about I think he said 2 to 3 weeks, but I think if I allocate 4 weeks, we should have a staircase turn up within 4 weeks, is the plan. So there we go, people. So this is the dressing room with the 2 windows in it. So I suppose inside it doesn't really look any different to what you've already seen, does it? Other than the fact that maybe there's a little bit more wood going on, and windows are in, which is always helpful. But the tiles are on, it's watertight, all barring the plastic, which, yeah, is a problem. Because the water can get in down there on the bottoms. So it's only going to take for a bit of wind. And if they reckon we're getting 60-mile-an-hour winds next week, that could be interesting. So, yeah, that's the only thing that's holding the rain out, is those bits of wood that are sort of pinned down. And there's the window frames, which I would rather be in their holes with some glazing in and know that I don't need to worry, but it is what it is. So there we go. We're not quite there, but we're getting there. So there we go. That is the state of play with the build. And this is the last time that I'll be up here. Oh, let's see if we can get out now. Oh. 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 So that's the last time I'll be up here now until I have a staircase, because I won't be able to get up here. So yeah, that's my view. See, you don't know how lucky you've got it when you don't have neighbours that are quite so close. I don't mind having that neighbour. That's my mummy. I'm all right with mummy. But yeah, it's all rather tight, but very English. So I can't wait for it to be for the render to be painted and finished, so that, and windows in, that would be really nice. But it's getting there. Right, should we hop off downstairs? Let's tackle the ladders, shall we? There we go. So that is the garden and the build update, people. And not much of either of those is going to happen now. Look at the state of my house. Look what I've done. Look at it. See? Look. The mess I've made. All that stitching. I best go tidy up now. So there you go. A whole lot of mess. A whole lot of mess. A whole lot of life update. What else to tell you? Mummy's doing fine. She's, you know, starting to get out and about. The summer weather's making it easier, so that we're actually getting some gardening done, and she's been going out on her scooter. I've still only had one vaccine. I was going to go in and get my other vaccine done last week, but then the doctors or the hospital said, don't go and get your vaccine 2 weeks. So basically, I'm not allowed to have the vaccine within 2 weeks of having surgery. So I can't have it 2 weeks before surgery, and I can't have it post-surgery for 2 weeks. So once I'm sort of feeling a bit more with it and a bit more able-bodied, I will probably go and get my vaccine done. So that will be me fully vaccinated. But yeah, I had to delay it, unfortunately, because it was too close to my surgery date. So that is it, people. That is the life update. So I now need to go off and edit these videos and get them uploaded so that you know that I'm still here and all that's been going on. Fingers crossed, providing everything goes okay on the hip issue tomorrow, I will then be able to have plenty of downtime, convalescing, getting some stitching done, getting some videos done. I don't know. Depending on how I'm feeling, I might actually do some Stitch With Me videos or live streams, because I can imagine it's going to get really boring if I'm really unable-bodied but I can just sit and stitch. I might need a bit of company, so that might be you guys. So yeah, watch this space. Who knows? If it's really nice weather, at least I know I can go and sit out on the deck in a chair. I'm not sure I'll get down onto a sun lounger, to be honest, but I could probably still sit in a chair and, you know, catch some rays if we ever get any here in the UK. I know that our friends, I think in America, are having a bit of a stomping heat wave right now. So, you know, at least you've got your air conditioning units to sort of give you a little bit of respite. But fingers crossed your temperatures do reduce slightly, because that sounds a whole lot hot. I mean, I like hot, but there's hot and there's hot. So yeah, I'm feeling for you guys. But feel for us, you know, we're supposed to be in the height of our summer and we've still just got rain and basically just scraping 19 degrees here today. So yeah, welcome to my world. So there you go, people. Life update done. Hopefully the next time that I see you, I will be, you know, just chilling and stitching. I certainly won't be doing any build work, and there certainly won't be any, you know, any viewing of upstairs, because I won't be able to get upstairs until the stairs gets here. Once the stairs are in, then at least I can still get up the stairs. But hopefully, she says, in 6 to 8 weeks we should have stairs in, and I can actually go back up the stairs through a set of stairs rather than up a ladder. So there we go. Huge thank you to everyone that has shown interest in my life and my build and the sagas that go with that. And you're all just wonderful people. So I really do appreciate you coming and hanging out with me. So if any of you have any words of wisdom for my post-surgery of how to cope with the boredom of being stuck with a dodgy hip, then, you know, feel free to let me know. And if anyone's got any ideas of how to stop slugs and snails from annihilating your dahlias, then again, feel free to let me know if there's a way. That's an easy fix. I want an easy fix, not a... I've tried the eggshells, I've tried spraying them with garlic, I've tried, yeah, you name it, I've tried that. Mineralised straw, I will let you know how that goes and whether that actually works. So, yeah. So until next time, people, thank you for coming. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for listening to me waffle. I love you all. Take care and bye-bye for now.